Hey everybody, welcome to episode 28. Today's episode I'm going to talk about was an independent comic book series in the 80s. I don't know exactly who ended up with the rights to it. I think Malibu Comics, but at the time when I was collecting it, it kind of changed publishers a few times, and that's the Ex-Mutants. This guy here. Drawn by Ron Lim. I can't remember who the writer was. I'll look it up when I look up in the other book. But I just remember the artists vividly because Ron Lim was doing the art. Ron Lim, of course, went on to Marvel and DC. I know he did Silver Surfer for a while, did a bunch of other comics. I don't believe he ever returned to the Ex-Mutants. This did actually go into... After it changed publishers a few times, it actually went to Malibu in the 90s. I really didn't like the Malibu version of it, and then it was even made into like a Super Nintendo game at the time. So it picked up some steam in the early 90s, but then it just fizzled out again. And I don't know who owns the rights to it now. I'm assuming Malibu's still around. I don't even know about that, to tell you the truth. It would have been nice to see it show up in like the Ultraverse at the time, but I don't know as far as the legalities of it. But ever since the 80s, and ever since this first few series, the first few issues, it's always been one of my favorite all-time independent comics, next to, like, say, the Ninja Turtles or Cerebus. This one used to always, I used to always go back to this one. I always loved it. I don't think I discovered it. I think my friend at the time, the one I was telling you about from junior high, when I switched over to Ruther, he ended up, I think, tipped me off to it. I think he got a couple issues of it and told me about it, and I checked it out. I was like, oh, I want this. So I ended up, I think the first few issues I got were from Dave's Comics, downtown Royal Oak. I remember going through the bins, and I think I asked Spud at the time. I think his name was Spud. That was his nickname. I don't know what his real name was. But he also worked at Thomas Video, which is right around the block in Clawson. Everybody kind of knew each other then. I mean, it was kind of, everybody, there was a lot of common characters that would circulate around that area back then in the late 80s. I think Spud actually worked for Caliber Comics for a while. But anyways, he was working at Dave's Comics that day, and I remember asking him, do you have any Ex-Mutants comics? He's like, Ex-Mutants? So I think so. So I said, probably try, the back issue bins, which I did, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the comics I found in that bin, I only got a few, but not all of them. I think I might have got, this is the actual number one. This was Eternity Comics had it for a little while, and they put out this number one, but this isn't actually complete. It's missing about 5 or 6 pages of it. This was the real one by Amazing Comics. And these are kind of, Amazing and Pied Piper are the two comic companies I really associate with the Ex-Mutants. And I believe I got the first one of this. I think I got this before I got that Eternity version. And the thing with the Eternity version, I've got 3 copies of it myself. And the reason why is I find it periodically in quarter bins, or selling comics by the pound type of thing. And so every time I see one for like next to nothing, I pick it up just to have another copy of Ex-Mutants number 1, the Eternity Comics version of it. But if I read it, I usually end up reading the Amazing Comics version. Like I said, it's got those missing pages in it. I like the cover better. I really don't like that cover on that other one. It's just so jarring because the comics have like a certain feel to them. Even when went to Pied Piper, they still had a certain feel to them. But there's issue number 2. I remember I picked up issue number 2 there. I always like this classic, good guys being surrounded by a swarm of bad guys type of thing. And this one they did it in silhouette, but sometimes, they'll do it, more rendered. Maybe they'll do a bird's eye view shot of this. It's a classic comic cover trope, but I love it. And then this is issue 3. I'll hold these up a little bit better. They're falling in my hand. Yeah, I really like the comic. I might as well just go through them. There's not many of them. I'll go through them real quick. I had another second copy of issue 2. Like I said, when I find them for cheap, next to nothing, I pick them up just to have them. Here's the issue number 4. my favorite character, and I'll get into, of course, probably I can already see why, but my favorite comic of character was, of course, Erin, the brunette here. She's kind of like a reddish brown hair with the green. But that was my favorite character. And the other thing reason it appealed to me is, like I said, I was a teenager at the time, probably 14 years old, and it was 4 girls and 1 guy. So I mean, it's a harem. I mean, it's basically just like any Japanese anime or manga. It's a harem comic for the most part. I mean, there are a couple other male characters in the good guys' side, but by and large, the Ex-Mutants themselves are all girls except for the 1 guy. Let's see, we got issue 4, issue 5, issue 6, issue 7, and then the last issue was issue 8. There, and then they had some solo issues from like the individual characters had their own comics, and the only one I really kept, of course, was my favorite character, Erin. I got hers, and like I said, obviously you can tell why this was appealing to a 14-year-old boy, but we ended up collecting them a bunch of times. We kept finally getting them all. I used to draw them all the time. I mean, I drew Erin constantly. I guess it's just my way of dealing with my infatuation was to keep drawing that, just like Rogue, just keep drawing that character over and over again. The drawings kind of fluctuated from decent to not decent, but anyways. Also down at Time Travelers, which was the original Time Travelers. I don't know if it was original, but it was the one I remember, which wasn't the one that I believe is still in business today. First time I went down there a few times with that same buddy and my dad, and I remember looking on the bottom shelf when I walked in there, and they had this, and I was like, oh, what's that? And it was like little graphic novels. A very weird size. It's not a digest size. It's not a comic size. It was a really odd size to it. This was put out by, who did put this out? I don't think it was First. All Prominent Characters, Ex-Mutants graphic novel, Eternity Publishing. I guess it was Malibu and Eternity together must have put this out. This might have, because I remember this came out a little later. These 2 comics, Eternity might have had the rights at some point to print them or reprint them, and so they reprinted issue 1 in this format. Like I said, we lost a few pages, and then that makes sense because this here doesn't pick up at issue 1. This actually starts at issue 2 and goes, I think, to issue 7 or 8. I can't remember. And one thing about this comic, too, at the time, this is big with Indy Comics, of course, it was black and white. But I'll show you more interior pages on a CBR of it, see it better in just a few minutes. But, I got this, I think it was $7.95. This is not my original either. I had to find this again. I found this about 15 years ago online somewhere. And none of my issues are fresh. And the reason why I kind of lament that is we used to go to that place, we used to go to Comics Cafe down in Ferndale at that time called, every Tuesday night they show anime on this big screen TV in there. It was called Tora Tuesday. And it was kind of a who's who kind of a place of hanging out of local, like I said, local characters, people from Royal Oak, Clawson, all those different areas. And a lot of us younger kids who were in high school, we'd go there. But a lot of artists would go there, local artists would go there to work for the industry. And Tim Zahn was he was an inker for DC and I think Marvel. I said I've got, I don't know if I told my Jeff Albrecht story. I'll tell that probably later. But he would show up there, and I remember I commissioned him to draw a long shot drawing for me for $10. It was pretty cool. But he's real chunky, though. He's real thick. It was kind of weird. The face was really nice, though. Yeah, so Tim Zahn, spelled D-Z-O-N. Yeah. Was it here? Yeah, it's right here. he did the inking for most of the Ron Lim stuff, and when I learned that, I think I found that out when I got this. I went, oh, I went and I took all my stuff. I took this and I took all my Ex-Mutant stuff, and I had him sign them all. And those, of course, are long since gone. So I lost my autographed copies by Zahn, and I never met Ron Lim, so I couldn't have gotten those signed. But I've got everything, and I got multiples, but nothing's been personalized to me. The guy was only a few years older than me. I'm sure he's still alive. Same thing with Ron Lim. So if I ever see them, and I have these, or if I know they're going to be there, I'll bring those and have them sign them. Again, I don't think Lim ever went back to doing this, but like I said, it was my favorite. Next to Turtles and Cerebus and that type of stuff. And Elementals was another big one I liked for as far as indie comics. I like the team books, like the X-Men. And essentially, the Ex-Mutants was kind of like the X-Men. The premise of their story, and I'll get into it here, is that that the whole world's gone to shit. Apocalypse has happened. Everybody's mutated into these crazy mutants. And these are Ex-Mutants. They used to be mutants, but the scientist who kind of knew this was coming started working on this technology to be able to reverse the effects of mutations. So the comic kind of starts out with like a flashback of that, and then when it fast forwards to the current time, he's kind of talking, and he reveals these mutants that he's reverted back to human form, and that's why they're called Ex-Mutants. They used to be mutants, and they're unique. They're the standout crowd amongst all the mutants. So it's kind of like a mutant apocalypse kind of story, way before Walking Dead. And there's no zombies in it per se, I can remember, but it was the 80s. So what do you do with a bunch of young, attractive, characters in the 80s? Well, you teach them to be ninjas. It was a thing. Give them some katanas. I don't think there's actually ninja toes. I think they had katanas. Give them some katanas and train them to be ninjas / samurai / every other martial art thrown together. And voila, you got a bunch of ninja fighting teenagers that fight a bunch of mutants in a post-apocalyptic landscape. It's gold. It's indie comic gold back in the day. So I'm going to get into the PDF here, but let me just take a quick break just to show you. I got, she came today. This is Darkstar. She's a Marvel Legends. She came out a while ago. She was a Build-A-Figure for the Ursa Major bear, obviously because she's part of the Soviet Super Soldiers. I don't really have any interest in getting the rest of the ones in that set to get the bear, although the Ultron's a pretty nice figure. But she is the one I wanted. I really liked her a lot as a kid. Again, obvious reasons. But I'll show you real quick here before I flip over to the other. She showed up she was in the Champions originally. I don't remember the Champions comic. And then, of course, she went to become the Soviet Super Soldiers, and then I think that's when she got this costume. But I first learned of her, of course, of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe Deluxe Edition. And this drawing here really caught my attention. I loved the black. I wasn't big on blondes at the time, but I liked her. And I love this, sweeping, hyperextended knee here on this leg. I love the black outfit. Obviously, I love the black, skin-tight outfit. She had this hip cocked way out, which is also pretty suggestive to a 14-year-old at the time, or 15 or 13, whatever at the time, 12 when I probably saw this. So, I didn't really go in depth and find. I read her backstory and stuff, but I didn't really go in depth on her too much. But when this is an older figure. This one's came out probably a couple of years ago. But when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, they have a Darkstar figure in this right costume, and it looks really nice. I'm going to get it. Well, I never did. So I was perusing on Amazon. Remember, I'm trying to limit my allowance to one action figure a week. And if I can get it for a deal, I'm going to get it for a deal. So, so I saw it. I was like, okay. Oh, I saw it. She was on Amazon. She was like $12 or 11 something. And so I jumped at it. I was like, oh, wow, that's super cheap. Well, it's my action figure of the week. So I bought her. She came today. Like I said, I love this figure. My only issue with her is she is really wobbly, and she's very loose in the joints, especially her legs, which is problematic for the female figures because, you know, they need their legs to, because they're thinner than the males and not as heavy, so they need their stiffness to stand, and obviously standing on her own is problematic. You know, even if you bend her feet, however you want to bend them, she has issues. So I usually put them on these NECA stands, and this one's actually pretty loose, doesn't fit her foot perfectly. I've already tried to glue her with hot glue down to keep her still, and she was fine, I thought. And then I heard this thud, and she fell over. And I think it's because her knees are really loose. So the action figure-wise, she's not really that great. Maybe that's why they were selling her for $12. Maybe other people complained. I don't know. But it wasn't used. I mean, it was still sealed when I got it, so it wasn't like somebody had opened up and played with it. But I've got her. She's in my collection of my ladies. My speaking of harem, my harem of lady action figures. You know, growing over here. I'll show more of them at the time. But now I have 3 Marvel Legends. I've got Scarlet Witch, the Rogue, the Outback Rogue, and Darkstar. But so I'm pretty happy with her, like I said. And then there's the drawing. I just wanted to point that out to you. So let's switch over and go to... oh, sorry, one more thing. I'll put you on big screen so you can see this one. I also found this on Thrift Books again. Ninja Turtles #1 of the first, colorized versions. I'm gonna read this again. I mean, I've read it countless times, but I'll read it again so it's fresh in my head, and I'll do an actual full video on this. I got 2 and 3 also coming. I found them as well pretty cheap on Thrift Books. And I'll go into this more in detail in the video. I just want to say right off the bat is Thrift Books I like, but they've already made their first strike against me. Is they listed this as good condition, and they said it was, and they didn't have a description of anything specific about it. And overall, I'd say, yeah, it's in good condition, except for one thing. It's missing its back cover. Now, you know, I guess everybody's definition of good, you know, your mileage may vary, but I would say missing its back cover is definitely acceptable or less. I only paid, I think, $12 for it, but it's definitely not in good condition. The rest of it's in fine condition, which is, I guess, is fine for a reading copy, but, you know, I kind of wanted these at least in better shape. So if I ever find another one, I'll probably pick it up. I wrote a review on there kind of giving my opinion on that. You know, I don't need a refund or anything, but I did also make a comment. And also, I'm really sick of Thrift Books doing this, putting this sticker, their Thrift Book, their barcode right on the corner here. I mean, it's fine on certain books, but the thing is, some of these old books, in order to get this off, even with lighter fluid, you're going to damage the book, and it's already tearing. It tears, and you know, again, why do this? You know, either A, find another way to put it on the book somewhere. Even on the cover would have been better. I could have gotten it off there a lot easier, or put it on the missing cover on the back. But yeah, I'll go more into the detail when I read it and give you my opinions and stuff and see how well it holds up. I finished Volume 3, rereading that, and I actually don't remember the last comic in that issue, which would have been issue 9. I don't remember that one when I first had it, but maybe I just glossed over it. So, okay, those are the couple things. I just wanted to get those out of the way real quick before I forget, or before I'm gone in an hour. What am I at now? 19 minutes. Okay, good. We got a little bit of time to talk about these Ex-Mutants. Sorry. Let's go back to this. I'm going to switch back over. I'm going to go to, start out with issue 1, of course, with the Ex-Mutants. There it is. Okay. Again, this particular one is the full version. I just have the Eternity comic also thrown on top of it. So here's the real issue number 1. Revised and expanded. Now it says here, the original story revised and expanded, new pages and story and art. you know, I'm fuzzy on, you know, correct me if anybody knows, but I'm fuzzy on how this was released. Obviously, I didn't get to this right off the gate when it came out. So maybe the Eternity comic came first? I always thought it came later. I got it later. That doesn't always mean it came out later, but I'll go look at the copyright dates and stuff and see. Or maybe do some digging, and maybe there's a Wikipedia article talking about it. It is pretty obscure. Sorry, getting the sleepies again. It is pretty obscure. Not a lot of people, when I mention this, talk about it, so I'm sure this is going to get like 2 views, this whole video, because it seems like when something isn't recognizable, people skip out over it. But yeah, I think it's worth taking a look at. It's very interesting, you know, even if it's for more than my superficial love of it for certain reasons. But I've read all some of the fan forums. Stuff. It's funny, they're talking about when they came up to come up with this comic, the writers and the editor. They're like, you know, we went to the comic book shelf and we noticed that there's a lot of martial arts animals that are mutated in some way. I think they're referring to, obviously, the Ninja Turtles, maybe adolescent black belt adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. I think there's a couple other, like, mutant animal ninja or commando or something comics at the time. So I think they're making a joke, you know, in regards to that. But it's funny, they say, we want to keep it black and white so we can keep it down to $1.80. Even then, you could tell getting stuff published or printed was even in black and white, even back then, was still expensive. So it kicks out here. This is the flashback. This is the guy here in the future. Like I said, I don't want to go through the entire story. And again, spoilers. The statute of limitations on spoilers is expired after 30 years, I would think. So yeah. Oh, Dave Lawrence, that's the author. I keep getting him and Bill Mantlo mixed up. The guy does Micronauts comics, but yeah, David Lawrence, Ron Lim, Tim Zahn does the inking, and then the other people, which, you know, I don't want to downgrade their contributions either, but those are usually the 3 main people I pay attention to. And this is not colored, so it's not going to have a colorist. But I love the biggie. I love the 80s big hair. Love it. I still love the 80s big hair. Obviously, right off the bat, you can see, I don't know if you can see my mouse as I creepily revolve around or point to this. But anyways, as you can see, the comic really, to me, you know, I said a young kid, boom, you know, it spoke to me quick. And it obviously did a bunch of other teenage boys. And I can't, this looks like there's a character called, not Kelly LeBrock, but I think her name is LeBrock. And obviously they're trying to make her look like Kelly LeBrock, who's in like Weird Science. I don't know if this is her, and she shows up later. Because I know there's called the New Humans, which are like newer Ex-Mutants of regular human characters, end up showing back up later in the comic. And they end up having their own title as well. And I had a couple. I don't think I currently have any of them, but I think I might have one or two New Humans comics somewhere in my stack. But yeah, I mean, I really like the artwork. I mean, I thought the artwork, not only was it, you know, what it was, but the thing is, I thought it was decent for an independent comic back in the day. It definitely has that feel to it. You know, I've long since grown out of that kind of, you know, myself. But still, it's nostalgic to go back and see stuff when it has that look to it. So we go into, so here's kind of what they look like. Everybody's kind of mutated. There's that woman who's mutated. He's now the scientist himself. He's kind of lived through this catastrophe, this like apocalypse, or this, you know, Armageddon that happened, and how he's mutated, and he knew he was going to be mutated, but he had to stay, like, he couldn't go into hibernation or go into like stasis because he had to keep the machines going. So he kind of sacrifices himself for that. And then he gives a, you know, like a recounting of the, you know, this apocalypse, this world event. You know, of course, you got to throw in some Mikhail Gorbachev there, some Gaddafi, some Reagan. It's the 80s, you know. And then they kind of go back into present day with these mutants. And it's like, you know, he's got this underground lab, which is kind of protected. And he makes trips out to, like, to get, like, you know, stuff, and he has to kind of fight off all these mobs of mutants. They've kind of all organized in like gangs of mutants. And then he talks. Here we go down at the bottom here. Let me blow this up again. I like it bigger so you guys can see better. I know you can't get the whole page at once, but you can kind of see more. So these are the little canister or the little stasis capsules or whatever that he's got. These other characters he's trying to demutantify. So, and it's kind of the big reveal. What are they gonna look like? Oh, da 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 da. And I know it's a too big spread, so I'll blow it back up. There it is. Okay, let's pull back out. So then here we get our main cast. So we got Erin, of course, on the left. I think the biggest reason I like Erin, although she was a brunette, and she showed the most leg, but I really like this contrast of this bottom part of her outfit with like the flesh tone and this all black. I said that all black thing. I really like that. And then she had these cool boots, and then she had this green. And I thought green and like this like auburny reddish brown together looked really nice. And then she's got yellow in her outfit. I obviously can't see here, but on the covers you do. And she had this little braid thing. I just thought she looked the most appealing out of all of them. I mean, the other three characters were okay. I wasn't big into blondes, Belushi is the main character, obviously probably named after John Belushi, the main dude. And then you've got Vicky, which sounds like a blonde girl's name. She's got the headband though on. I like the headband. I love 80s headbands with 80s hair. And then you've got what's her face, Angela, who I think she's Asian. They keep kind of playing up she's Asian, but they don't always show she's Asian. And she had the all black pants, this tight black stretchy pants, and I like that as well. I know I kind of seem to be dwelling on that, but I mean this is the stuff that made me who I am today, and this is the stuff that I was focusing in at when I was a teenager, and I really never left my psyche since then. And then Lorelai was this girl, and she was kind of appealing. She's a black girl, so she had obviously they didn't color her skin in, but she probably would have had more like that brown, that kind of cocoa color that they use on a lot of the black skin for comics back in the day. But I like them all. I mean, I just like her specifically the best. And then they give this thing where they talk about them training. He trains them in like acrobats and studying and all this other stuff. And they're wrestling them here. Ha ha ha. Playing, or as they're eating. I think they're playing games in one of them, but and he kind of gives them these skills and stuff, and kind of like, so I'm going to set you guys out on to find more people like you, and find some more other humans. So they kind of go off, out and set off into the world, and and kind of make their way. I really like that drawing of her. I love the legs. But they kind of go out. They fight, get in a little bit of a tussle. Their first tussle with some of the mutants. The mutants kind of realize, oh, there are these humans out there, and they kind of go back and report back to their. He goes back to his into hiding, and apparently this is his wife or another girl or whatever he's got saved up. Norma Jean. I thought Norma. Who was the other girl in the beginning of the book? Oh, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, they're. Another thing that's cool about it, it was the 80s too, is the main mutant bad guy is essentially Lord Humongous from Road Warrior, the Mad Max Road Warrior movie. I can see the Aaron there. That's, like I said, my eyes would zero right in on this, and obviously it was drawn, set against this black background for that particular reason. Yeah, I mean, it seems like Ron Lim really, cranked it up on her when she was in the panels. I'm assuming he was her favorite character too. And then there's this kind of thing where they all kind of go to bed at night, but Vicky sneaks off and she goes into Belushi's tent. So because they're away from their quote unquote father figure, so now they're out being teenagers or whatever. They kind of hint at their age. I think they're like young adults. like 19 to 24-ish. It's kind of what they were, college-age kids. And of course, her and Belushi get it on there. And then they just kind of embarrassed about it the next day, blah, blah, blah. So there's some sexual tension, obviously. 4 girls and 1 guy. You know, he's already been with one of them, so it kind of goes on this. And then they get these crazy, like, Groucho Marx characters that are kind of weird. I read some stuff in the interviews about those characters, and I was just like, I didn't like that so much. That didn't really appeal to me very much. I liked the girls, especially Aaron, and I liked the mutants, and I liked the samurai swords, and I liked all that stuff. So that's pretty much. It says coming soon. Oh, it's issue 2. No, it's issue 2. So then they've got this in the back here. I think this is off the big issue of issue 1, but. And then they got that, see, the Amazing Comics with that cover. Like I said, it was all over the place. Eventually, it's going to go to Pied Piper for a while. Another publisher just kept switching hands. There's the New Humans. And see that character? That's the LeBrock character. Again, I don't know if that's the girl from the beginning or they just drew her hair that way. Let's go to... here's the rest of the issues here. Oh, there's also this pinup book, which obviously was pretty popular. I liked it for obvious reasons again. And then issue 2, let's see, let's go into issue 2 real quick. Because it kind of continues from there. They introduce this other crazy character coming up. Oh, they meet this guy. It's like this other band of like good mutants or whatever, and they kind of side up with them. Yeah, there's that Aaron again. Your Lord Humongous guy. They end up killing him, I think. Again, spoiler alert. There was a pretty gratuitous panel with Angela. She's got her jacket off, so she's down to her black, whatever, jazzercise suit, aerobic suit or whatever. Yeah, so then they go there. Like I said, I don't want to get super into the story itself, but that's the gist of all of it. I mean, it kind of takes some twists and turns and just kind of follows it. And obviously, I think it kind of probably fizzled out because there's only so much, unless you've got a real good story arc or something going on with it. I guess there's only so much you can do with that before it gets kind of stale. Let's see here. Sorry. Afternoons. My gosh. After I kind of finish for the day, I'm kind of dead tired all of a sudden. But maybe I'll try to record my stuff. But I've only got so much time, and I kind of fit these in. So let's we're at 33 minutes, and I'll give my closing statements on everything. But here's the Aaron issue. Right off the bat, she's taking that outfit off, too. And then there's this little guy who kind of befriends her. And he's supposed to be a mutant. He's like, I guess he's like a midget or whatever, or little person. But he's supposed to be this, and he's like, obviously he's just like me. He's infatuated with Aaron. And then it kind of goes on. He said, look at this panel. This one was pretty rife with it, too. It was all over the place in this one. I just read this recently, too. I kind of flipped through. I was bored, and I can't remember the story exactly. Oh, is this Dundabud, whatever the crazy-looking thing is. Kind of looks like the Jeep from Popeye, or whatever that character was. If this thing shows, I think they end up taking this back. I can't remember how exactly that went, but I think she kind of fights this thing. Or, oh no, they befriend it or whatever. That's what it is. And then I'm telling you, like I said, that drawing I've drawn a lot. There's a lot of these drawings I've drawn a lot of times, and of course I've made up my own. But I really didn't like the zip. They put the zip on this page, and I really didn't like that. what was the point? It was supposed to make this like this slash or whatever. I don't know. Just didn't like that. But there was the Aaron. There's the new humans there. Oh, I just noticed it's 4 guys and a girl as opposed to 4 girls and a guy. But at the end of this issue, you know, she's like, "Oh, how can I repay you?" And he's like, or she's like, "Oh, I'll repay you." And she starts taking her stuff off. She's thinking, "Hey, this little guy's gonna get lucky." And he does what he has. He has more, whatever, stupidity or integrity. I don't know which one, but he doesn't go through with it. She's like, "Oh, blah blah blah," but then you get the impression like they did. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but she is fighting some crazy monster. So, anyways, yeah. So we got the New Mutants. Sorry, the Ex-Mutants. Like I said, it was a huge comic for me. You know, there's an annual. I didn't like the annual. It wasn't Ron Lim art. I guess I'll show you some of the pinup book. It was exactly that. I drew that so many times. And so you can see the color. Some of them are color. Are they all in color? Yeah, I think they're all in color. So you get to see the color, what their colors would be. I mean, outside of looking at the covers. And I think it does repeat some of the covers. And obviously a Marilyn Monroe type. But it had some nice versions of the covers in here too, for the pinups. You know, without the graphics and stuff. I thought that was cool. There's a different play on that #1 alternative cover. That's it? I thought there was a couple more drawings of it. I know there's one her jumping on there. I thought there was more to that. Maybe not. Okay. I don't have the physical copy of that one. That one's long gone. But, yeah, so that's the New Mutants comics. You know, so I still have, I've got them all. You know, and I said I cherish these. I really like these. I'll never get rid of these. And they're probably, I've looked them up. They're not even worth really much. I mean, like I said, some stuff you find in quarter bins. You're lucky if you get maybe, like if I sold everything that I had of X-Mutants, I'd be lucky if I got $20 for everything. You know, maybe a little bit more throwing in this guy. I don't know how hard this thing is to find. But like I said, I mean, really, you know, this also solidified my, you know, drawing female characters all the time. You know, my teenage years and kind of how that went into adulthood. And you know, and I always wanted to do something. You know, I would love to do this comic. Actually, do this and produce it, but I don't know who owns the rights, and you know, I'm not going to go through all that trying to get the rights to do it myself. And you know, it's probably wouldn't sell. I'm just probably going to do worse than it did then. But I always wanted to do something with these characters. You know, even if it's fan art, fan fiction, you know, something like that. And maybe one day I'll get around to doing it. But you know, I'm on the grind now, churning out commissions and other pages for comics that are selling. So. Having the time to be very self-indulgent and do something like this. I don't know exactly. I had an idea of what I would do. I would probably do something in the same vein of the stuff that I do for my my webcomic. But again, nobody's going to know who these characters are, so I don't want to incorporate it into that. Maybe down the road, if it continues to sell like it is. But again, it would dip in numbers because people don't have any clue who these characters are for the most part. I mean, like I said, this is pretty obscure stuff. I know there's probably people who, you know, might watch this and go, "Oh yeah, I remember the X-Mutants," but it really wasn't super popular. But it's one of those, you know, what do they call them? You know, what do they call it when you like something, but it's kind of like a guilty pleasure. It's a guilty pleasure for this. You know, that character there, the Aaron girl, she's definitely a guilty pleasure of mine. Where's better? There she is there. Just trying to find her more and her better. That's a pretty decent one of her costume. There she is on one. You know, like I said, I like the other girls too, but she was my favorite. I keep saying that. The only other one that I liked too, and I don't think I have it. on the PDF because it was an ad, and I tried to not scan the, not PDF, I keep saying that, a CBR, but I tried to scan in just the pages and leave out the ads. But where is she? So when it switched to Pied Piper kind of had this mascot that they had. You know, obviously they knew what they were doing to sell to us young boys. So they kind of did what they did with this. I'll show you if I can find her. And I always thought it'd be kind of cool to, oh, here she is to team her up with Erin. Was this Pied Piper girl? Obviously legs. And I really liked her. I really liked the look of her. And she's with a bunch of other comics and some small illustrations of her inside. You know, essentially she's just Erin. There's a picture of her here. She's just Erin with a Pied Piper costume, and really. I mean, I knew that then. Let's see. Really, I don't have any. Let's see, what comic was this? Let me just check real quick to see. This would have been, what was this, issue 6 or 6? Right there. Oh yeah, so the Eternity did have a few other reprints. These are from like the 90s. I'm pretty sure. Oh, there she is there. Oh yeah, there she is walking away. But I just want to flip through these real quick and see if I can find. Is she in the back cover? Yeah, she's in the back cover. There she is. Okay, there, perfect. There you go. So that's from the back cover. Yeah, that character. I really like that. I like the appeal of that character. I like the green. I like the brown hair. I like the legs. But she's just, all she was is just a mascot for Pied Piper Comics. But again, I thought it would be fun to put her in some little adventure with Erin, kind of do a spin-off of that. But again, maybe in the future. Who knows? So that said, I think we'll be on time. I guess we'll couple of minutes early. So again, got the what's her face? Let me put myself back up on the main screen. Got my Dark Star figure, which I'll always be wrestling with to get her to stand up straight, and I'll try to glue her or whatever I can do to get her to stay. She stayed. Anyways, and then of course again, I got the Ninja Turtles that I want to do a review on, and then I've got 2 and 3 coming. I'm going to start reading this evening. Actually, sit down and read for an hour or so, my comics at nighttime. So I'm going to start this one again. I'm kind of reading them out of order, which is not a big deal. And I'll do a video on that. Yeah, and I'll do a video on the other 2 once they come in. I pretty much talked about number 3 as much with issue 8 in there. I talked about the other 2 comics too as well. But 8 was the big one in there. So, alright, so tomorrow, what is this? What did I say this was? It's episode 28? 9, 10. Got 2 more. Again, if I get the days wrong, it's because these are, the day I'm recording this is probably not the day it's going out on. Just because I'm trying to build up a cache videos, but, I'm gonna act like it's the day, even if I'm totally off. But yeah, so I'll come up with something for tomorrow. Maybe I'll jump. I kind of want to wait off on jumping into Inferno with the X-Men. I should read that again. I know I went through the Fall of the Mutants without reading, and again, I'm not going to give you a play-by-play, spoiler-heavy, review of the comic. That's not my intentions. But I might at least read the X-Men issues again, because I'll probably go over those mostly in the Inferno. But Inferno might even be a 2-parter, because there's a lot to Inferno. There was like a build-up to Inferno, and then there was an aftermath, and blah, blah, blah. But that was a big one for me, and that was like right smack. That was like probably the coming to a head of all my favorite X-Men stuff when Inferno hit, and then it kind of fizzled out after that, for when Rogue gets sucked through the Siege Perilous and that whole thing, which is very shortly after that. I have to probably do a whole issue on that one, because I got some stories with that one. I got a pretty interesting story that goes along with that, my experience with that comic. I kind of want to get into doing some more stuff on how to with comics, but like I said, I don't really want to do a tutorial. and I don't really want to get too heavily into that. Maybe at some time I'll cover like the software I use for doing comics or something like that. Like I said, I'm not going to probably put my professional work on this channel per se. It's because it wouldn't pass the powers that be with YouTube. It would get me kicked off. So because it's very adult. So, and obviously you can tell by what I've been talking about in the last few videos with a lot of the female characters. You can tell which direction that my real stuff has gone into. The people who know me, know my stuff that are watching these videos, they obviously know what it is. But there's probably people that don't. And again, you have any? I'm not hiding behind it. I'm not going to hide with that. I just don't want to put this on this site. But if you have any questions about that, or want to ask me, or you want me links or anything like that, just come to me, message me, or email me. My email me is down there at the bottom, and and ask me if you have any serious inquiries about it. I also do commissions, yada yada yada. So I always push that as a service. But if you want to see my stuff, I'll direct you towards it. But like I said, I'm just going to keep it separated from YouTube. So that said, again, I went to 45 minutes. And I gotta get something to pick me up again too, so I can stay awake. But I will catch you tomorrow and with a video on something. I'll keep you guessing. How about that? All right, talk to you then. Bye-bye.